Grafting Celestial Jhudiel is one of the best rogue decks not known to the meta. What is up, you guys, and welcome back to the Prime Vanguard channel. Today, I'm going to be doing a video talking about how Grafting Celestial Jhudiel was a deck that had a huge amount of rogue potential for the G-Era meta. Now, the inspiration of this video is coming from the fact that we just got all of the Angel Feather support cards released from the V-Clan selection set, so that we see the introduction of the new support and the different direction that Celestials are going to be going with V Premium. Now, after seeing all this old support and the fact that it is all Celestial based means that it really got me nostalgic and thinking about an old deck that I used to play that was really fun and also extremely powerful. I would even argue that this deck had the potential to be a really good rogue budget deck. But if this deck was so powerful and so strong and had all the great tools to potentially be a really good rogue deck or even a really strong tier 2 deck, why did nobody know about it? Well, in order to understand the history of this, we need to go all the way back to GBT13 Ultimate Stride. Now, GBT13 Ultimate Stride was the 13th set of the G-Era, and with the introduction of this, we got the Xerath Dragons as well as a bunch of other support cards and legacy support for older decks. One of those decks was the Celestial Archetype, who over the years hadn't received too much good support later in the G-Era, other than the introduction of their Limit Break Enabler. But that was pretty much it for when it came to good support for Celestials. Everything else was pretty much generic Angel Feather support and nothing really too solid. They got another Legion, and that was pretty mediocre and didn't help the deck too much, and they got a Stride in Fighters Collection 2015. But again, all of these cards were okay. None of them were really good enough to make the deck pop up or fix many of the issues that this deck faced. But when Ultimate Stride came out, with just the introduction of, I believe, about 3 to 5 cards, the deck changed a lot and had the potential to become an extremely competitive deck. And all of this is thanks to this one card, and that is their main grade 3 for the deck, which was Grafting Celestial Jhudiel. Now, for those of you guys that do not know what Grafting Celestial Jhudiel does, I'm gonna go ahead and give you a recap of her ability. Her effect reads as the following. Auto on the Vanguard circle, you may counterblast one card with the same card name as any of your units and Celestials in its card names. At the beginning of your ride phase, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose a card from your damage zone, call it to the rear guard circle, and it gets 3,000 power until the end of the turn. Put the top card of your deck into your damage zone face up. Its second ability is an auto on Vanguard skill. Soul Blast 1, when your G unit with Celestial and its original card name were to stride, you may pay the cost. If you do, search for up to one card from your deck and put it into your damage zone face up, and choose a face up card from your damage zone and heal it. So right off the bat, this card has a really amazing ride skill. This ride skill gives you board and power, and nothing really too crazy for an Angel Feather generic card, other than the fact that it'll recycle the card that you took out from the damage zone, top to the face of the deck, and give you a free call for 3,000 power. However, the main thing that really made this card amazing was the fact that its second ability allowed you to stride into a Celestial card and search your deck up for any card you want and put it into your damage zone. Jhudiel's second ability alone was the main thing that helped the Celestial deck take it from here all the way up to here, because having that level of utility and getting that every single turn while striding on top of the advantage your other cards would give you was extremely amazing. But Jhudiel was the only amazing card that we got in this set that really helped the deck out. We also got introduced to a new form of win condition for the deck and a really good stride that the deck could play along really well with, Holy Celestial Wreaking. Now, this Celestial card had a really amazing and powerful effect for a rare card, and the effect reads as this. Auto on the Vanguard circle, choose a card from your hand and put it into your damage zone face up. When this unit attacks, if you have a heart card with Celestial in its card name, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose up to 2 face-up cards from your damage zone with the same card name as any of your units, call them to the separate rear guard circle, and they get plus 5,000 power until the end of the turn. If you call 2 cards, choose one of your Vanguards to deal 1 damage. The introduction of Wreaking was huge for Celestials, as thanks to this card, Celestials not only had a better stride that was Celestial named, but the clan also got introduced to multi-attacking. This card had perfect synergy with Jhudiel because you use Jhudiel's first ability to call a card out and then combine it with Wreaking's other ability when you enter the battle phase, so this way you had a target to call out with the skill. And in set 13, it wasn't even just Jhudiel and the support from that. We also got the special healer trigger at that time. We also got a bunch of good generic support for the deck and a new starter that all improved the resource management of Celestials. And if you guys have been watching my channel for a long time or seen any of my deck profiles, you guys know that the one thing I love about any good deck, and I really feel is the key to making any deck from low tier to top tier, is extremely good and consistent resource management. And that's what a lot of this new support focused around. You got the Eradicate Celestial, which became your special heal trigger that you could use to get a counter charge or soul charge to make up for your other abilities. You already had Invert Celestial Asbiel, who was a critical trigger that could put itself back into the deck. You had Doctroid Renfros, who even though it was 1 at the time, because you had Jhudiel's ability to put it from your deck into the damage zone, you can use Celestial Nariel or one of your other Angel Feather cards to get this card out from your damage zone back into your hand and keep reusing it. And the best part was the fact that you had Jhudiel's second ability to always get this card out from your deck. Not only that, it was a stand trigger as well, which means that you had a stand trigger you could put back into the deck. And Angel Feather alone just has a bunch of really good and amazing triggers for their archetype even before all the Celestial support. However, because the deck did require you to use a Celestial Counterblast and we wanted to keep up with the theme, we would play most of the Celestial cards anyway. You also had one of the best supporting Angel Feather cards back in the old days, which was Sariel, who was essentially a Jhudiel for a counterblast that you could play into the deck as well to even get more consistency when it comes from taking cards out of your deck and putting them into your damage zone. And to really emphasize the importance of these two new cards that were introduced for the Celestial archetype, which was Jhudiel and Rhaegal, you can't forget about the fact that Celestials also had a really amazing stride and was honestly the main finisher for the archetype, which was Anafiel all the way back in Divine Dragon Caper. Anafiel has always been a really powerful stride for the Celestial archetype, as it essentially is the deck's main finisher, but because you had Rhaegal, you can now have 3 different ways of winning the game. You had access to your Legion, which gave you resource management as well as a full board power-up. You had Anafiel, which gave you the potential to make 60k columns. And then you had Rhaegal, which gave your deck multi-attacking and additional power-up to your board. And this pretty much fixed a lot of the huge issues that the Celestial deck has, as their resource management is so good that unfortunately that's all the archetype focused on and their power was really lacking. But thanks to having Jhudiel and Rhaegal and these other strides for the deck, all in support of striding as well as cards that didn't require any generation break abilities, your deck had a really strong early game, you had really amazing strides, different win conditions, and the deck already just really good at resource management. Keep in mind that you also had the ability to search out any cards you wanted from your deck and put them into the damage zone. So it wasn't even just the resource management that was good, it was the deck's utility as well. For example, if I want to switch out my hand or get more cards from the deck to build up my resources, I can just use Jhudiel's skill from striding from my Rhaegal or Anafiel, search out Doctroid Renfros, then I can use Nariel's ability, get Doctroid Renfros out and put another card into my damage zone, which could potentially be any of the cards I already have on my board, use Renfros' skill and perform that skill. And then if I have a Sariel in my hand, if I call Sariel out later or use the skill of that I called earlier from Jhudiel's ability, I can perform this again and I can just use the Jhudiel skill later to get that to happen one more time. The G-Guardian aspect also made your Angel Feather deck strong as well. Angel Feather has some really powerful G-Guardians, and I really do feel like the best G-Guardian for this particular archetype was Holy Seraph Elite, which this card pretty much became a huge tank because a lot of your Celestial cards were face up into the damage zone because you need the names of those cards to be able to play your other cards. You weren't counterblasting a lot, and if you were, you could just swap the cards out from your skills and get your damage zone face up. So Elite was definitely for your big plays and attacks to get through. And then you had Holy Seraph Suriel, who essentially was just a free damage tech that you could choose between for your defensive skills, which will combine with your other rear guards that would power up your Vanguard when you took damage, therefore giving you a stronger defensive turn against your opponent. Overall, everything was looking really well with Celestials. They had really good resource management and all the other aspects that I talked to you about, and their main issue of having such weak columns and powers that your opponent didn't care about it was fixed. They had multi-attack, so that problem was fixed. They had really good utility because you had Sariel, who was a Celestial, Jhudiel, who gave you any call you wanted from the deck, and then you had Nariel, who essentially was the Celestial version of a hand swap, so you had that as well. You had Doctroid Renfro, so you could pretty much search your deck out anytime. You had Emergency Celestial Landing Pegasus, who pretty much lets you search your deck out, put a card from your deck into the damage zone. You also had Invert Celestial Asbiel, who was a critical who put itself back into the deck. You also had Eradicate Celestial, which was the special heal trigger that you could use to get your soul charging back when you G-Guardian. Like, everything for Celestials was just so perfect and so good. Now you guys are probably wondering, well, if they were so powerful and they had all this good stuff going and they could take advantage of all the other Angel Feather strides that were good too and the G-Guardians, what happened to them? Well, unfortunately, what happened to them was the plague that happens to any other decks when you play against it and you can't handle it. So there's this little clan called Link Joker, and they have this card called Chaos Breaker Dragon, who unfortunately ruined the meta for everybody. The Celestial archetype is very rearguard based. You need to call out your rearguards from the damage zone and then gain effects based off what you have from them, or utilizing their on-place effects so that you can reuse them again later and take advantage of their skills yet again. Your Legion focused on rearguards, Jhudiel required you to have rearguards, and Nafil didn't do anything without rearguards, and Jhudiel even gave you a free call to make up for the rearguards that you lost. But the Link Joker support was just so strong at that time, and it was coming out later that the Celestial deck just couldn't keep up. Even when we got the critical trigger that essentially gives you the ability to counterblast one, move into the soul, and unlock 2 cards, Chaos Breaker Dragon and the Messiah deck that I forgot to mention at the time could take advantage of that, and you were honestly just plussing your opponent a lot. That free to unlock wasn't even that special considering all the support that the Chaos Breaker Dragon deck potentially had to lock your cards again, and then you essentially just lost out on a resource. And that unfortunately was really why Celestials couldn't do good and a lot of other decks couldn't do good, because Celestials didn't get any resist cards either, and if they did get resist cards, the resist cards would have to have such bonkers effects for the deck to keep up, because it was such a rearguard reliant deck that there wasn't anything that you could do. And against a good Chaos Breaker Dragon player or against a good Messiah player, your entire board was going to be locked in your hand. And Chaos Breaker Dragon, the support cards that that deck had at the time, had the ability to lock cards from your own hand, so you just had to deal with that as well. Throughout this entire video, I've been emphasizing all the powerful traits that the Celestial deck had, and they got fixed with introduction of their strides and the introduction of their support cards. On top of the fact that this is a G-Era deck, so you did have really strong G units that the clan got as well, such as Gavrael Eden, you had Raphael, you had the rescue check variation of Gavrael that gave you superior calling as well as double rescue checks, and then you had all of your really strong Celestial strides and powerful G Guardians as well. Jhudiel was definitely no slouch, and her success was really short-lived. If anything, she probably had more success on the local level if you knew what your locals were, and you were one of the few people that were able to pick up on this deck and how strong it was. But I definitely do want to let the Celestial players out there know that I'm here with you, I support you, and that this deck was really strong and it was something to be feared, and it really was a beast at its time. It's just unfortunate that this beautiful angel's time to shine was so short-lived because she was clouded by the darkness of Link Joker. Whew. All right, you guys, so that is it for today's video. If you guys enjoy more talking head videos like this, where I talk about some past experiences with Vanguard and my thoughts on previous situations with Vanguard, please go ahead and let me know down in that comment section below. Like I always say, do not forget to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you guys are always notified about the really awesome content that I'm going to be coming out with. But that is it for today, y'all. Peace and keep playing Vanguard.